Rosie.
Okay. Thank you.
Never mind.
Chris?
Good evening, everybody. Newmarket.
Wake up.
We're all a little punchy because we've been here since midnight last night.
We never left.
Okay, so this is the budget committee meeting, and
No close-ups.
We're adding $2
we're
million. to the
coming
budget.
back from our recess from last night and continuing our meeting at 7 p.m. on January now 23rd, 2013. And we have two orders of business. The school board, after our deliberations last night and votes, reconsidered their positions on warrant articles and changed warrant article 9, which is the one that creates the utility capital reserve fund. And I didn't print it out, but they basically changed the, yeah, that's interesting. That's the right number. They changed the dollar amount from $50,000 to $25,000, which was essentially what we suggested. And then it was recommended by the school board by a vote of 3-2. So we have to re-vote on it because the dollar amount changed. We had the opportunity to re-vote on it, which I would suggest we should. So can I have a motion regarding our position on the revised Article 9, which is now $25,000?
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 9, New Utility Expenses Capital Reserve Fund.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Is this correct? Is it the sum of $50,000 and then
I
$25,000
think they
in
just
parentheses?
didn't correct the wording of 50.
Yeah,
It should be
that's-
25.
It should,
Right.
It should be 25. It should definitely be 25.
that's what my only,
That's a good question to confirm. So it's $25,000. Linda confirms that's what they did last night because we weren't there.
The legal line just needs to change.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
hey, Jackie boy.
You're just in time to vote.
I was gonna say, come quick, I won't be.
Oh, no.
Come on in.
Come on in.
Come quick, I won't be.
Any other comments while we're providing Jack with the opportunity to sit down?
You want to know what the motion is?
So last night, go ahead, sit down. Last night, the school board changed Article 9 from $50,000 to $25,000 for that capital reserve fund for utility expenses.
Yeah, we heard that, didn't we?
They reduced it. And now there's a motion on the floor to recommend it, and that's basically what's happened so far.
And that's the only change.
That's the only change,
All the
well,
warrant articles
that's,
from last night.
Thought he was gonna say, this is a tiebreaker, and you're the only one.
well, it could be like that, who knows? All right, so everybody clear about what we're voting on? Any questions? All right, all those in favor of recommending Article 9 as revised to $25,000, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, and abstentions? So I believe that would be 9-1, correct? I only had one, okay. All right, are there any other, okay, I'm not gonna even ask, so we're done with the warrant articles and the operating budget. So now we have minutes from 3 different meetings that were distributed over the last few weeks. The January 8th, January 7th, and January 14th, I believe. So yeah, let's start with January 7th. Anybody want to make a motion to accept, and then we'll revise as necessary?
I'll make a motion to accept the January 7th minutes as drafted.
All right, any edits or questions or changes? Go ahead, Russ?
Somebody, in the first paragraph under 2, in the middle of the paragraph, it talks about the revenue budget being $4.8 million, which I think includes all the water and sewer fees. And the next sentence says the largest amount of revenue comes from licenses, permits, and fees, which wouldn't be true if they're including the water and the sewer fees. So I don't know if we need to correct that. It may be misleading because the $4.8 million before it.
So if we added inclusive of water and sewer.
Or excluding water and wastewater fees, the largest fees are the licenses, et cetera.
But the water fees are not $1.2 million. We get $1.2 million in just registration fees from cars. The water fees are about 900,000, the sewer fees are about 900,000.
Okay, well,
So separately they aren't, but they're not, they're separate departments.
you're saying the license, okay, so the license fees are larger than both the water and the wastewater fees
Individually,
independently?
yeah.
Okay.
They're over $1 million bucks. Yeah.
Then I,
That's why I like it when I see those brand new Mercedes driving around in Newmarket, or at least parking in Newmarket.
fair
Plus, if
enough.
that's what we said, that's what it's supposed to say, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Being the used ones,
No, I like the brand new ones, the 2013s.
insignias that are stamped on.
Any other questions or comments?
At least one other more on this one. We had the discussion about the two-thirds, and if you remember, it was 60%, and it says 60% still in the minutes, though Steve corrected that afterwards, and neither, I'd at least like that corrected in the 7th minutes or mentioned in the 8th minutes.
But you can't change what was said. If that's what he said, you can make an announcement.
Then on the 8th, if we
later
just
on.
need a correcting statement that says,
You're making it now, it'll be in the minutes of this, you can make the statement of what.
well, either in the 8th or whatever, I just
The
wouldn't
8th,
want...
if it wasn't brought up at the
You
8th.
can't change it just because it was
You
wrong.
can't change or add minutes.
Just because,
Okay,
You can clarify it at a meeting
you're
that you're
doing right
doing
now.
now, and that will be reflected in the minutes of tonight.
So
okay.
if we could just add a statement to tonight's minutes that say, everybody understands that Steve, separately outside the meeting, confirmed that it is two-thirds.
On the bonding issues.
On bonding.
And that's what's gonna be, I think that's what's on the
In
warrant.
reference to the January 7th minutes,
Sure.
Steve Fournier's remarks around about bonding is two-thirds.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, okay, all those in favor of the January 7th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Abstain, I wasn't here.
January 8th. Motion to accept, please.
Motion to accept January 8th minutes.
Second, anyone?
I'll second that.
Okay, any corrections,
I have-
questions?
I have-
Gary, go ahead.
I don't know where it is on everybody's. It was on page 7 when I printed it out. I think people will remember. It was, and I'll just read the paragraph to give it a little context. It was when we were discussing some of the concerns people had about monies being spent, and I'll just read the sentence. It says, Article 10 means that money could be spent in addition to the approved budget. School board member Representative Matagani, did I pronounce that properly?
Yep.
Said that the concerns suggesting distrust of the board were in the minority, and she took the use of the word personally. It was pointed out that the same authority as outlined in the article already exists for the town council. Councilor Levy said that sometimes words get used, but this had not been meant personally. He said this primarily had been a discussion of a philosophical question. The only reason I bring this up is because it looks like the term, it looks like I was responding to Ms. Matagani, or school rep Matagani, and I really wasn't at the time. It was, there was a little bit left out of that conversation. It had been stated far earlier. And I was just talking more in general about maybe less contentious terms be used in general, let's put it that way. So I think that was the context, and I think the context wasn't quite captured there. Does everybody kind of know what I mean? Because I wasn't really responding to
It wasn't
any-
you and
So I just thought I'd clarify that.
Okay. I mean, I don't, that's consistent with my memory. It doesn't sound like anybody else disagrees. So if there's a way that you can, you do a very good job, so I trust you understand. These are great minutes. So.
I had one change on page 2, the last paragraph, the last big paragraph. In the middle there, it says,
337.
yeah, it says 337,339. It should just be 37,000.
There's an extra,
Well, unless that was a faux pas, because we didn't
another
talk
one.
about that
no,
last
it's an extra 3. It's just the 3 got typed twice, Alan. That's all.
Yeah. You're reading some people's minds.
If you want to write a check, you can help.
That would be a $300,000 check. Go ahead, Russ.
I just had one other thing that I still think is misleading, and you may tell me it needs to be in the minutes that way anyway, but in the first paragraph where it says review of the school budget, and it talks about 14 million, 15 million, and 10 million net of revenue, and that it would result in a negative 2 cents in the tax rate. I truly think is misleading because they're speaking about the operating expenses, but whether that can be changed or anybody else cares, that would be the only other thing I had.
So let's say it this way in order to get it into these minutes. And that is that the change in the operating budget will result in a 55-cent increase in the tax rate. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think, what is it, 409 minus the 70 we took, whatever
Yeah,
that is,
yeah.
somewhere around there.
Let's say it approximately 55 cent.
But this is how DRA does it, so that's how they have to present it. Or that's how they do present it.
So wouldn't it be more accurate to say, Drew, that are you trying to compare operating to operating?
Yeah.
Then say, if you compare this year's proposed operating to last year's past, it's a 55-cent increase.
Sure.
That sounds more accurate.
Yeah.
It's clear to me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
Right, because
because they
when they,
mentioned the
That's
other
the
ones
idea.
after that, Frank. Yeah,
when they do it
mentioned
on
the
the
other
town
ones.
side, Steve actually did, he did it that way too, when he gave us his projections, and he figures in the operating, so, yeah, the operating budget is one, and then the revenues come in, and perhaps his chart was a little, I don't know how it could be clearer, I mean, it's this, that, and the other, but I had the same trouble, and I had to stop and think, okay, but the revenues need to come in, and that's what ultimately results in the tax rate.
The interesting is
But they
that
did it on the
previous-
school side too.
The previous
I mean, on the town
school
side.
director, finance person did give us the chart that showed operating to operating. So it's just,
And
it's
whether
just
it's
a request
DRA
to
or
do
not,
it.
there are three things, just so everybody's comfortable. It's the operating budget plus last year's $769,000 contribution to the dual fund, minus a couple $100,000 of credit for money that wasn't spent the year before on warrant articles. And so I think it
Minus
just
projected
makes
revenues.
Fruit salad. I'd rather just have people understand the operating budget's going up and actually the contribution to the dual fund is
Going down a little bit. Yeah,
It is what it is.
I agree.
That will change in tonight.
Yeah, you just
Yes.
reflect it as a
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah.
Any other changes or questions? Okay, all those in favor of January 8th as edited, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the 14th, recent history.
I think we can ignore the first 7 pages unless Steve or Dr. Hazer.
Do we make a motion first, or do we?
Yeah, please do.
Except for Rosie.
I'm getting sleepy.
Go
ahead.
Motion that we
Oh.
approve the minutes last night. As written.
All right, is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Amy. All right, any,
I just have spelling corrections, Ed Porterata,
Oh, okay.
but that'll do it in a globe. It was a couple of places, Ellen, it's minor, but maybe not to him, so.
any other corrections or edits?
Sorry, I'll raise my hand.
No, go ahead.
I was just speaking. On what I have as page 3, under town budget and warrant articles, 4th paragraph. Bottom. It says the default budget of $9,215,962 is $57,559 than the FY 2103 budget. And I believe it needs to say $57,559 more than the fiscal year 2013 budget, please.
How's that cut and paste and leave stuff out?
I think
No,
your hands were so cold you couldn't get all the words.
It was.
These minutes after the first 2, so
And
good catching.
I just have a, one more adding a word, my page 7. It starts, Ed Porterata of 177 Exeter Road said when he calls 911, he does not Newmarket call
It's not get.
or
Yeah,
get.
yeah, he said
Yeah.
get,
Yeah.
yeah.
Usually rings at my house.
The only other one that I noticed, and then I'll stop, is that it's on my page 8, under Budget Committee deliberations and votes, first paragraph, second sentence. He said if any committee members wanted to table an article, that would be fine. Minor. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading them so diligently. Any other edits or comments? All right, all those in favor of the January 14th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, abstentions? All right, so I think that's all of our business. The business manager for the school district, Christine, gave me, we don't need that one, the MS7, so that we would be able to sign it. MS27, I guess it is. And this one has it, she gave us one that said we recommended 9 or we didn't recommend it. So we recommended it, so we're not going to sign the one that says we didn't recommend it. And to make it really convenient for her, if we could sign it tonight, that'd be great. Yes, Judy?
Oh, that's just, does that include the warrant articles in that document? Is the appropriate change been made on Article 9?
All right, I'll double check to make sure it says 25,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's some.
Yep, it says school board 25,000 to capital reserve / utility. If you want to look at it when you are asked to sign it, it's page 4.
For the text, isn't there?
Yeah, it just has it doesn't have text, just has a number.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have like the actual language of each article, it just
Okay.
references it.
Doesn't have the verbiage, does it?
Let's see, and the budget committee's recommended budget was 15,553,567. That's right, because I tried to make it 55555. Isn't it like that? And that's what it has on this page as well. And it shows it being not recommended by $70,000.
Shows it's not recommended, or?
Shows what they, on this chart, it has a column for what's not recommended, and the dollar amount difference in the operating budget is what's shown as not recommended, which is 70,000.
Oh, okay.
So while they're signing that, you said that you get the 911 calls. Apparently, there's a guy in Las Vegas that when people's cell phones got lost, they were told they were at his house. Like, when they called to find the phone, it kept saying it's his address, so he had to put a sign up on his door that said, "I do not have your cell phone." There's some weird glitch with the GPS software that it kept sending people to his house. This is torture, man. It's just something else about Las Vegas, I guess.
Everyone get that electric thing I sent out to everyone?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm already on that.
Yeah, I think PSNH is going to lose a lot of customers. They already lost like 15,000.
I am. I sent it around.
Finally.
It's a,
We just started. When we're doing it for the community, we're saving, we hope somewhere.
Do you know what you're paying a kilowatt hour?
Oh, no, I haven't.
I looked at it and I think it was
It's 15 to 20% is probably.
they said it was 24% lower right now than PSNH's rates through November 2013.
And their rates are going up to 9 something, right?
So, and then you can also buy just wind power from them
6 something or low 7s.
if you want, which is still lower than PSNH. And then Fairpoint, I got a solicitation from Fairpoint. They have a Fairpoint wind, which is interesting.
The best
Just
rate I
wind
saw
power.
was 695, which is what I signed up for, but it's in the ballpark about.
So I'll
Mine might be a 7-1.
do you have
Get that to
can you give it? Can you have a key upstairs or?
I do not.
We'll just slide in right. They'll be happy. All right, so with that, our next meeting would be the deliberative session, which is February 2nd, and it begins at 10 a.m. with the town and then 1 p.m. with the school. Hopefully, the town will be over at some point between 10 and 1.
Is that an official meeting of the Budget Committee at that?
I don't know if it's an official meeting of the Budget Committee.
Only
It's a
because we have
deliberative
minutes
session.
from the last two meeting, well, I guess
Yeah.
this will be added to the minutes of last night since we.
It'll be the
recessed.
same meeting.
I just didn't know if we waited until next May or something to approve those or whether.
Yeah. The interesting part is there's no requirement in state law to actually have committees approve minutes. So, because they have to be available immediately, like within a certain number of days, and you might not meet for a month. The planning boards in some towns meet once a month. So the minutes are available within 72 hours or 120 hours, something like that.
72 hours.
So, anyway, that'll be up to the next budget committee, I think, unless the deliberative session changes articles with the dollar amounts, then we get to meet again and vote on them again. And then we can adopt minutes, but then we'll have minutes from that meeting. So it's kind of a vicious circle. So, I guess we'll see everybody on February 2nd, and motion to adjourn would be great.
Motion.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right. That was easy.